Hello everyone, and welcome to the draft breakdown for Season 9 of the VDL. Once again, we are back in the Jirachi division for Season 9, and this season we are doing super low tier. Super excited to be back, and it's super excited to be back in this new format. As you remember, our first ever season that we played in the VDL was a low tier season. We had that Napoleon God of our team, which was so fun to use. And we're back here again. Unfortunately, stuff like Empoleon and the Haxoruses and the other stuff that was running around last season was apparently too powerful for low tier. So we're going even lower this time. We're doing super low tier, which is super tough. We had 70 points to draft exactly 10 Pokemon on our team. This is a snake draft. We had to also, there was the additional rule where we had to draft two Terra Captains. We had a Terra budget of 7 points, where the maximum point Terra Captains were 6 points. We had to draft two, so that means if you did grab one of the stronger ones at 6 points, you had to grab a 1 pointer to go with it. So it did force a bit of it's a bit interesting drafting because obviously you could go for a big Terra Captain at 6 points and then be forced to grab a much weaker 1 pointer on a team when you might have still have points left over to when you could get something better, or you could be smart and grab like a 4 pointer and a 3 pointer, like a 5 pointer and a 2 pointer, and do things a bit differently for your draft. So yeah, it was very interesting. There were so few options on this board. We ended up with the 13th pick. So many different roles because it's super low tier. Just were not like there were not good options. There were so few fairy types on the board. There was like 5 to 10 good fairies, and obviously there's 16 coaches in this draft, so that is not enough to go around. There's like 5 to 10 good steel types on the board, like usable steel types. There's like not very many bulky water types for you. So yeah, it's a really tough board to draw from. And at 13th, there was a lot of things flying off the shelves, and I was thinking to myself, I'm not gonna aim for any one Pokemon. I was looking at what other people would draft and trying to go around it, and I noticed that the fairy types were flying off the board. Stuff like Sylveon, Gardevoir, they were all going super quickly, and I knew if I didn't grab my fairy early, I was not going to get a great one, especially with how limited the options are. So for our first pick, the Towering Titans picked up Pumira the Florges. As always, we have a naming theme. I think I'm going to let you guess it this time because I'm intrigued to see if anyone recognizes the naming theme and knows what it is. So you'll have to comment and let me know if you know what it is. I feel like this might be a bit old. People know me. I'm quite young, but this is definitely before my time. So you wouldn't expect it from me, I think. But yeah, let's get straight into Florges. Florges we picked up super solid fairy. One of the most SPDF bulky things on the board. We got it at 11 points, whereas we only had 70, so this is a huge chunk of our budget. The maximum point mons were 12 pointers. But we were going to look at it, and I was like, there aren't very many things in 12 points that were left that I really wanted to build a team around, and I wanted Florges because I know it's such a great wish passer, such a great SPDF mon, and in this lower format, 112 special attack is very dangerous actually. It doesn't actually just a wish pass, it can also do Carmine, Psychic, Moonblast sets, it also gets grass moves, and I mentioned there's a very limited amount of steel types, which are the main things that wall this mon, which means that people either have not great steel types or might not have a steel type entirely, which means Florges can do some really nice breaking work if we need it to do so. So yeah, very nice mon, and I think it was a great pick to build a team around. I'm sure Matt enjoyed this first pick. He picked TheArchDon first pick, we picked Florges first pick, we kind of traded mons we enjoy, so that was very fun. Next up, we have going into round 2. Obviously, we had 13th pick, so we were quite late in the draft order picking this up. But this is a snake draft, which means that we got our next pick about 6 picks later. And I was looking at the board, and I was thinking to myself, what do I want next? And the thing I noticed is that there was a very limited amount of good removal on the board, good rapid spinners, good defoggers, just because a lot of them were cut out by the super low tier. And I was looking at them, and because everyone was going for those steel and fairies early, there were a lot of the good ones were still on the board, and I think I picked one of the top 2 rapid spinners. It was between this mon and Fortress, because I was thinking there's limited seal types. This thing gives me a good rapid spinner and also a good hazard setter, but in the end I was convinced to go for Tentacruel instead. Mumra the Tentacruel. It's a 12-point mon. It was in the hot top tiers. I saw it still on the board. It gives us a bulky water. It gives us a grounded poison. It gives us a T-spike set. It gives us one of, other than Silence, I think this was the best rapid spinner on the board, which is so important. It also gives us another very bulky mon. And Tentacle's so good, man. Obviously, it has the spinning and the poison moves. It can be physical or special with those 70 and 80 special attacks, 70 attack and 80 special attack, which are really nice and pretty decent on this board, just because bonds have lesser stats overall. 100 speed is also really nice. I noticed that things are much slower on this board because a lot of the really fast hard-hitting mons are gone. So stuff like 100 speed feels more like 110, 115 in this format, just because the fastest things are stuff like Jolteon at 130, and there's a lot less 100, 110 mons. So Tentacle actually feels very fast. I also think that this thing could be a very nice Swords Dance breaker, which a lot of people will not expect just because it's fast, and with 70 attack, Ultra Swords Dance, it does hit very hard with stuff like gunk shots and liquidations. It can also be a nice pivot for us with Flip Turn, and it also can just pairs really nicely with Florges, which was the main thing. Obviously, that poison typing making it and water typing make it resist the steel and poison moves that Florges is weak to. On the same time, obviously, Florges is neutral to a lot of stuff that is super effective on Tentacruel. They're both very nice bulky mons, so they kind of complement each other very nicely, and I think it was very important for my build to get a nice synergy between the two. So I very much enjoyed picking up Tentacruel, even though it did cost us a lot of points. We've already spent 23 points of our 70 budget on just 2 Pokemon. So for our next pick, I did want to lessen the points a bit. I wanted to look at the board. Obviously, we didn't pick up Fortress, and I mentioned there were very few steel types. At this point, the steel type options were all gone, the top tier ones. So I was thinking to myself, what do I want? And I started looking lower and lower down the board, and I thought I found something that was a very valuable pick. Something that was maybe a bit hidden because of the way our board looks and the way the Terraband ones work. This thing was sitting in 6 points as a Terraband one, so I couldn't try slice, but at the same time, I was thinking it was such good value for down at 6 points, and that is Slythe the Orthworm. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, by the way. It's been a while since I watched the show. Bit of a hint for where the naming theme is from. But yeah, Slythe the Orthworm, something I've never used before, but I think is honestly one of the better steel types on the board. I would argue this was one of the top 5 on the board, which is a very tough thing to say. It just gives so much value. Like, having your steel type be immune to ground is crazy. This thing also is so cool. Getting one of a really good steel type. Obviously, we only had really Spadef Pokemon so far. This thing gives us a really strong Fizdef Pokemon. And it also, I think, really nicely pairs, obviously, with that Florges. Once again, immune to the poison and resisting the steel types that are coming our way. Steel moves are coming away into Florges, allows us to pivot into this thing and be able to resist those or be immune to them. Alongside that, we have that ground immunity, which is really nice to pair with Tentacruel, because obviously that's weak to ground. We can swap into this and potentially even get healed up, which is really nice. And also really nicely helps out with those psychic types, which Tentacruel is weak to because we resist it here. So I thought, like, we get 3 very bulky mons that form a very tough core. Obviously, Orthworm and Tentacruel are limited by the fact they don't have self-healing, but that's what Florges' wishes are for, healing these guys up. These don't have the biggest HP pools, but Florges has, for example, 70 HP, and that's giving like over 50% to an Orthworm, which is really nice. And this thing also has really nice speed to play with the two. It's at 65 to 75 to 100, and at the same time can be a really bulky mon with coil sets, can be iron press sets, can be a stealth rocker for us, which is always nice. Get some more hazards on the team, and at the same time can also just be offensive. It can do a lot of good things. Obviously, we don't have access to Shed Tail. That is banned. I will put that out there. We will not be running that. But I feel like for 6 points, it was a really nice mon. We are at 29 points spent 3 rounds in, and I think we've got a very strong defensive core. So going into round 4, once again, we had a very close pick. I was thinking to myself, what do I want to build my offense around? So far, we've picked 3 very bulky mons, I think, form a very strong defensive core. Now we need to start building some offense to give our team some firepower to threaten other teams. They can't break us down, but we need to be able to break them down. And so for our 4th pick, I picked something that I wanted to kind of build a secondary core around, and that is Indeedee, Wily Kit / Wily Cat. The 2 twins, we have both male and female Indeedee. The names are correlate to which gender we're bringing each week. 3 really nice abilities in Inner Focus, Synchronized Hex Surge. I think actually the male, or was it the female, has own tempo instead of Inner Focus? I forgot to write that down until just now, but isn't something to note. They also have different stats, I believe, on the female. It's slightly different here. So obviously 105 special attack is really, really nice. But there's one main ability, obviously, one main thing this thing is known for, and that is Psychic Surge Expanding Force. The male indeed has 105 special attack with the Psychic Terrain boost, the boost to Expanding Force. This thing hits like a truck on that special side. And just is so dangerous. And 95 speed is also really, really incredible speed tier for Scarfers in this format, which I think is going to be very, very important. It also gives us a normal type, immune to ghosts, psychic type, two very, very important typings. Also allowing us to shut down priority, which could help further if we want to build gets faster mons or like stuff that is weak to priority. Indeed is something really, really nice to build around, and it's kind of like something I wanted to build around. I've wanted to build a terrain team for a long, long time. It's really, really tough to do so because it's not great ones, and often doing so is just so much worse than the weather. But because we had most of the weather setters in this format banned, indeed terrain looks really, really strong actually, and I think Psychic Terrain was the best of the bunch. So I really want to give it a go, and here we have Indeedee to do that. Did want to say that, yeah. So we do also have obviously access to the female, which can be a bit of a Healing Wish supporter. I don't think it gets Wish, but I do know it gets Healing Wish. It can be like a just a general cleric mon for us, which is really, really nice. Another Spadef mon. I doubt it's going to come most weeks as a Spadef mon because obviously we have Tentacruel Florges, which is really, really nice already. Only the one weakness with the normal psychic typing, or actually two, isn't it? Bug also. I'm thinking of normal ghost, sorry. Two weaknesses to Bug and Dark aren't obviously the strongest, but this thing does have Dazzling Gleam to break those mons. Unfortunately, it did lose Mystical Fire this gen, which would have been really, really nice into those steals. But once again, there's not many steals around, which I think is very, very powerful. Makes this thing very, very powerful with this expanding forces. I think it's going to be a threat every week that's going to force prep, which is really, really nice. Going into now round 5, we have this really strong defensive core mixed with Indeedee's Psychic Terrain, and now I really wanted to start getting mons that help this, because this does have offensive power, but it's obviously not the most strong mon. So we want to build some mons around this Psychic Terrain core that we're trying to build. To really, really complement it. And I think the first mon that I saw that was really, really nice, and that is Hisuian Typhlosion Jaga, the Typhlosion Hisui. The reason we have this, obviously, it gives us a special fire attacker, which is really, really nice. Fire is always a very nice defensive type to have. It also gives us a ghost type for spin blocking, for our rocks and T-spikes and stuff like that. It's also got, I think, one of the best draft league abilities. A bit of a hot take is Frisk, because like being able to like just know an opponent's item can be so valuable in certain scenarios. It's also really, really nice speed to 95. Has a 119 special attack, which is going to be very, very scary with choice Scarfer options. I mentioned Scarf is a nice speed tier. 95 is a nice speed tier for Scarfers. This thing is going to love being able to run that Scarf in the Psychic Terrain, be able to click eruptions without the fear of getting Sucker Punched, because it's immune to priority. Can't get a Stellar Rod, can't get Sucker Punched, and can't get Aqua Jetted. It's so nice. It can even run. It's also got that Ghost Stab if we need it for Shadow Balls and stuff. It can do Infernal Parade, it can do Hex stuff, it can do Will-O-Wisp. It's even got not the worst physical attack stat, and it does have nice coverage with moves like Rock Slide and Earthquake if we need it. Stuff like Flare Blitz too. So yeah, I think this is a very, very cool mon. I have used it before and it was really, really nice. So I'm excited to use it once again. I think it's going to be extremely deadly in this format, and it's going to be a really, really nice first mon to take advantage of that Psychic Terrain. Especially, mainly it's for the Sucker Punches, right? You can't get Sucker Punch on this thing, which is so good when it's scarfed. Next up, I wanted to obviously grab another mon. And I also wanted to grab a physical attacker, because right now we've got two strong attackers, but they're both special. So we definitely want some physical offense on this team. And I was thinking to myself, I want a strong fighting type while also getting myself a bit more removal, just because I don't want to force Tentacruel into that role every week if I do want to run a Swords Dance set one week. And so we picked up Lion-O, the Hitmonlee. Very, very strong fighting type. 3 really nice abilities. Limber means you cannot get paralyzed, which is great. Reckless is going to boost up those high jump kicks and to do massive damage off that massive 120 attacks stat. And then Burden means that we can take advantage of that Psychic Terrain, use Psychic Seed sets, or even if we don't have Psychic Terrain, use Fake Out sets to be able to double our speed. And with that 87 speed doubled, we're probably outspeeding most, if not everything, in this format that's not scarfed, which is really, really nice. It's just a really, really nice mon. It has like bulk up sets, it's Swords Dance sets, it can be knockoff, it can be close combat, it can be a rapid spinner, as I mentioned. It can be like the Lychee Berry reversal set. If we need that one week, it could be Choice Banded high jump kick. So if you are expecting it to set up and go into something, you could just get absolutely obliterated by a reckless high jump kick. So yeah, this thing is very, very scary to swap into, and I think it's going to be a very, very strong physical breaker for us. So yeah, going into round 7 now. We have 6 very good mons. We have a very, very strong psychic terrain core here with the Unburden, the Sucker Punch immunity, and also just the expanding force damage output. And the main thing that I really, really wanted going into this round is I was starting to think about my Terra Captains, right? Because we've spent a lot of points now, and a lot of the Terra Captains starting to go, and I wanted a strong one. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't have much outright speed, right? Our fastest one is Tentacruel 100, which, as I said, is fast, but still, there's going to be a lot of 110s and 120s floating around still that will outspeed us. So we do want speed on this team, and at the same time, I wanted a very, very strong Terra Captain, and I think we got those two in combination with Chitara the Electrode. This is our Terra Captain. Our first one is a 5-point Terra Captain, which means we had to get it to a 1 point next, but I feel like it's so good. That 150 speed, I looked at the board. This is the fastest Pokemon on the board. The next fastest thing is, obviously, if we don't count Hisuian Electrode, which went undrafted, is Jolteon, which we are fast enough to just run Modest and still outspeed that thing. So we can basically run Modest every week. Obviously, A-Special Shock isn't the highest, but being able to run Modest is really, really nice. If we want to run Live Orb sets, if we want to run Choice Spec sets. Also, it's an electric type with free Terra. We can run Terra Ice. Everyone knows Volt Beam coverage is crazy, and this thing has that. We can do Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, Terra Blast, Ice, Foul Play is also nice to be able to take advantage of those setup sweepers. We have 3 really nice abilities. Soundproof gives us immunity to big things like Bug Buzzes and Hyper Voices. Static means that if you are trying to KO us, you have that 30% chance to get paralyzed, which isn't great. And Aftermath means if you make contact, you also have that chance to take like a core of your HP, which is nice. In addition, this thing I also think pairs pretty nicely with the Indeedee, because most of the time, if you don't have a faster mon, a Scarfer that's faster than this, your main way to KO it, if we like, for example, Terra Ice or like Terra Grass, is to go for strong priority moves like a Mark Punch or a Bullet Punch, and you can't do that with the Psychic Terrain up, which is very, very nice for the Electro. Just being able to have that speed control is really, really nice, and I think it's going to be a very, very nice revenge killer and also a decent special breaker for us as well. Next up, going into round 8, I did want a bit more bulk. I did want to get some key immunities onto the team. We didn't have a ground type yet. We don't have a flying type yet. We're a bit ground weak, obviously, with Typhlosion, Tentacruel, Electrode, and Orthworm is our only like immunity / resist so far. So I did want to grab something to help out with that, and we did grab, I think, a really, really nice mon that I've been used recently, but I really, really enjoyed, and that is Snarf the Gligar. Very, very nice mon. 3 great abilities. One of which we cannot use, so it's not a great ability. Hypercutter means we can't have our attack level, which is great, and immunity means we cannot be poisoned, which is very, very nice to swap into those poison types, like that want to click Toxic. This thing is our Eviolite user. I forgot to mention, but there is an Eviolite rule in this league where we were only allowed to have 1 Eviolite per match, so it was not advised to grab a bunch of NFE mons, and this is the designated one I wanted for the team. It can be we don't have any more. I will spoil that. We don't have any more NFE mons, so this is going to be our designated Eviolite user, and it's able to freely run that, which is great. It has a very, very nice physically defensive stat because we had a lot of Spadef mons with Tentacruel and Florges, and it was really Orthworm for the Fizdef. So Gligar does come in and help out Orthworm in that sense. It's also obviously an electric immunity, it's a ground immunity, it has every hazard, Stealth Rock spikes and T-spikes, which is really, really nice. It's a nice pivot, it's a nice knockoffer, it's a nice earthquake, and even in this format, I wouldn't be surprised. Like 85 speed is not bad, and we could get a Sword Dance off and start dealing some big damage, which could be fun. So yeah, I'm looking forward to using this mon. In this format, as opposed to like higher tier where it's more of like you're fair getting one shot by like a water or ice type. In this one, that's not always going to be as likely to happen to you. You might live a hit and be able to deal big damage back. So very excited to use Gligar, and I think it's a very, very nice both pivot and immunities for our team. Now going into round 9 and 10, we need to pick obviously a 2 or 1 point Terramon. That is an obligation that we need to think about, and at the same time we need to be thinking about grabbing another mon that helps us out. And I think at this point, even after the Gligar pick, we're still worrying about that ground weakness. We still have 3 ground weak mons and only the 2 immunities. So I did want an extra mon just to help out the team with that, because obviously if there's a Mole Breaker mon, then it becomes 1 immunity and it could be tough. Extra Drill is not on this board, but was there any Mole Breaker ground types? I don't know, but I was thinking in the back of my head that there might be. So I did want to do that, grab a ground immunity, and at the same time I was looking down at the 2 points, and that's when I found it. The mascot, the best mon on the team, the best Terra Captain on the board. He's go-goated. It's Panthro, the go-goat, as our secondary Terra captain. This mon, why was it 2 points? I don't know. It's so fun. I think so. Sap Sipper ability with Terra captain is always fun. We can be ground or water, or rock, and be able to just be immune to grass type moves and risk giving us a +1 attack. And we have really nice offensive stats. 197 are both really nice, while also having that 123 HP mixed with decent defenses. This also gives us about like a 70 base speed tier mon, which we needed for our team. And I think this is going to be a nice Terra Captain. I really believe in Go-Go. Like, in the terrain, we give this thing a Psychic Seed. It gets a Spadef boost, where it's like super Spadef bulky with 123.81. We start bulk upping. It has Milk Drink to heal. It has Earthquake. It has high horsepower. It has grass moves like Horn Leech. It has fighting moves. It has everything you could want. And in addition, we have Terra Blast for the types that we don't have. So I think this thing is so cool. And in the weeks when Electro doesn't look as great, this thing could be is a really solid second Terra Captain. And I'm very excited to use it. Now, finally, we go into our final pick. And my thought process is we don't have a Dark type. And I'm scared of Dark types because we're running a Psychic Terrain team. And if we allow Psychic Terrain to go up and we can't defend our own Psychic Terrain, that's going to be a problem. So we definitely needed a Dark type, and I think that was an obligation. And I was looking around the board, we had about 5 or 6 points left, I believe. I'm thinking about what can I get, and in the end we settled on a mon, which I think is very strong. I think also really helped us patch up a secondary weakness that I wasn't even thinking about, which is that we don't have many great physical breakers, and that is Mabostiff, Tiger of the Mabostiff, as our final pick, 10th round. 3 incredible abilities. Intimidate helps out maybe as a Phys-Def mon, because 1890 is really good on an Intimidate mon for physically bulky variants. Guard Dog means we cannot be intimidated ourselves, and instead we get a +1 boost. We know how strong that is on Okidoki. It's really strong hair too. You cannot intimidate this thing. And then finally, Stakeout. It means that if this thing swaps in with that base 85 speed into a matchup where it's threatening a KO, if you swap out, it's still threatening a KO, because that double damage from Stakeout is so powerful. If we run this thing like Choice Band or physically offensive, it's going to be so hard swapping to that 120 attack. I think this thing was a steal at 5 points and such a strong Dark type for our team. Really gives us that extra physical offense, as I mentioned. It can be Jaw Lock, it can be Crunch, it has Play Rough, it has Psychic Fans to break screens. It is such a cool mon, and one that I saw and it was immediately like, I have to use this in this format. It's going to be so powerful. Like all the dark weaknesses, like those fairy types, which they're very limited amounts of, the fighting types, the bug types, if they swap in on a Psychic Fangs or a Play Rough, they're still going to be taking so much damage. They might even get one shot, which is just ridiculous for your dark type, like threatening so much damage. And I think it's really going to be nice into the Psychic types if you want to take advantage of our Psychic Terrain that we're setting up with Ndidi. So yeah, that is our team for Season 9 of the VDL. There they all are. Look at the gang. Love to see them all together. Super fun team. I think it's going to be very powerful. I'm very excited to use the Psychic Terrain cores, the defensive cores with Florges wishing up our defensive mons that don't have natural healing. Taking advantage of the Psychic Terrain with the Unburden and the speedy options of Typhlosion and Electrode protected from priority moves, while also dealing big damage with mons like Go-Go and Mabostiff in the back, which are just bulky, very strong offensive mons. So yeah, that is the team for Season 9, and I'll see you all next week for Week 1. Bye-bye!